Yeah. I mean, we're not doing a sound check. We're not, we're not talking about anything before we dive in. We're just diving in. And you know what? I'm going to open up with not even a joke. I'm just going to say shit beans. I
Kind of feel like Shalon a little bit right now.
you or me?
Well, both of us, because
Huh?
she kind of flies by the seat of her pants, to be honest.
Oh, to be fair, yes, whatever.
She goes into situations knowing, like, I don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll make it through.
It'll be fine probably, or not.
Yes.
But yeah, no, and I recently just had to re-upload a bunch of episodes because it turns out when you take a few months of a break between recording episodes and you forget how to export them, right? You make some wrong choices. You click the wrong button when you export. So
if you listen to some poor quality episodes, apologies for that. But if you go back and re-listen, you will have a different experience.
I couldn't figure out how to re-upload on YouTube while keeping the same everything else. The audio.
No one watches our
on
video
Spotify.
anyways, right?
I don't know. I need to look at the analytics. Whatever.
Hopefully they're better than Spotify. Okay, so you have no opening?
That is the opening. Hello and welcome to Cosmere Casual, your casual reader's guide to Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. I'm your co-host, you know what? I'm Shalon, you're Shalon, we're all Shalon. I'm Shalon.
I'm Shalon.
All right.
Okay.
All right, I'm Shalon.
So today we're going to discuss the interludes of Words of Radiance. So just a couple things to say at the beginning here. We will have some kind of spoilers, but we'll keep those towards the end of the episode, which we may have a second session of recording, so that may be the next recording.
If you see us jump around and suddenly change clothes.
Yeah, just because life. All right, second thing that I wanted to mention, most of the interludes don't make sense the first time you read them.
I disagree with that, and that's okay.
The first time you read them, I think we mentioned this the last Interludes episode, but the first time you read them, they could just be a cute story, and then when you read them next time, they may seem like there's a lot more to them because they are very layered.
But you don't fully grasp all of the... You definitely don't fully grasp all of the implications.
I'm sure we still don't.
That's fair.
We know more than we did before, but maybe not everything.
So once again, you have notes, and I'm just kind of like, I've read this book like 12 times. I could probably just, provide commentary. But let's say maybe it's been a couple months since I read it, because I was waiting for somebody else to catch up.
So there are a frick ton of interludes in this book. There are 6 interludes devoted to Eshonai alone.
Yeah, well, they're from Eshonai's point of view.
Yes.
They're dedicated to what the listeners are up to.
Yes, they are. And we have a bunch of other people as well, but I think let's just talk about Eshonai.
Maybe Venli too?
Maybe Venli too. So before we jump into the content, I did want to kind of start with a little bit of commentary that most of the time that I have consumed this novel has been through audiobook version. And I really do like the audiobook medium, particularly for the listener sections or the Parshendi sections, however you want to refer to them, because the audiobook narrators do put the words to a rhythm.
Well, they kind of they give it a little bit of a chant,
Yeah.
Kate Redding, I like how she does it. I like it.
Which is not something it's hard to force yourself to do that when you're reading it. So I do like the audiobook.
Unless you read out.
For that reason.
Unless you read out loud. Sorry, what?
Yeah. Unless you do whatever that was.
She said to the rhythm of skepticism.
There we go. Yes. Okay. That commentary over, let's jump into... So I probably said some confusing things. So the Alethi refer to this group of people as Parshendi, to differentiate them from the Parshman slaves that they have, but they refer to themselves as the listeners. So we're probably going to standardize on listeners, I think. But if you want to
use both.
But if you want to swap in your head for Parshendi,
I make no commitments to calling them by the right name. Although if I wanted to be respectful, and I should be respectful, they call themselves the listeners. That would be the right term for them.
So I'm going to try to use the listeners.
That's fair.
For made-up people, but still.
Yeah.
Made-up people that are consuming a lot of my brain space. Okay, so what we learn about the listeners is a little bit of history. We knew this before, but we kind of learn in more depth that the listeners can take on different forms by bonding the right spren during a storm. So if they take a certain kind of spren and bring it into the storm, they kind of their whole body and their whole body changes, and sometimes even that form has an effect on how they think and whatnot.
Yeah, and we see Eshonai adopt storm form by bonding that red angry spren.
Anger spren.
No, it wasn't an anger spren.
I thought it was.
It was a void spren. Anger spren are not void spren.
Okay.
But like, so I don't think we've gotten into it by the time we're here in Words of Radiance, but like you see different forms in one of the interludes where their work form,
war form, that is difficult to say.
Which are what the Alethi call Parshendi, warriors. Right?
Yeah. So we've gained a little bit of more insight into that. Eshonai does kind of lament the fact that the proper way to transform is to go into a storm with the proper attitude, singing the proper song, and attracting the proper spren.
Well, to me, that's an example of her being an unreliable narrator, right? Where she's so stuck in her traditions, in her traditionalism, like, which is so interesting when you think about her role in listener society.
That she disrupts her whole society. Yeah. We'll go into that in a second.
Yeah, but like the going into a storm with the right moxie, the right chutzpah, like that's how they only had dull form and mate form, right? They don't like she talks about. They don't really attract spren.
So, well, here's the thing. So let's go into a little bit more of a history of the people. So the group that we know as the listeners, actually broke off from the rest of their kind of culture, civilization, from everyone generations ago.
They defied their gods.
They did that on purpose. So prior to that point, they had known many, many different forms, like over 100.
And we see those in the listener's song of forms.
Yeah, so one of the parts they have verses from the listener's song of forms or something, and they list a bunch of different forms that there are. But yeah, they used to have hundreds, so they used to be able to know all of the songs, the different ways to attract different spren to change in these different forms. But in the process of breaking off from everybody, from the rest of their civilization, they kind of had to go through this process of being dumb and losing all of that knowledge. So they are trying to, as a civilization, they are trying to gain that knowledge back, and they've only figured out how to attract the right spren for 5 forms. What?
I am just intensely skeptical because, but the reasons why I'm skeptical are spoilers for Rhythm of War. Maybe Oathbringer, I don't remember. Well, whatever. I'll mention it. I can cut it out if we decide that it's a spoiler. But before they broke off before the Last Legion became the Last Legion, all the forms were granted by their gods, Odium and the Fused, right? So at least for thousands of years, they never
got to choose.
They never chose their forms. They never went in, they knew which spren they needed to have in their gem heart, because that was the spren that their god put there for them. But they didn't try to attract the spren themselves and go in, and certainly not
that we know. I don't know if we know enough. I don't know if we know enough. But you could be right. Yeah,
but I mean, it's hard enough for them to attract different emotion spren in general, but and just going in during a fucking high storm, the world ending, feeling like, and trying to adopt scholar form, get some logic spren. Let's think about this real logic. Boom, you get hit by a boulder.
But they do it. Well, actually, now that they've actually learned from the humans,
that's how they don't get scholar
they learn
form,
from the
right?
humans that humans can actually trap
gemstones.
spren in gemstones.
Right.
Yes.
And we know that, again, spoiler for Rhythm of War. I guess.
Don't say it.
Okay. That was news to the listeners.
That was news to the listeners that they could. And to be honest, the first several times that I read it, I missed the fact that they mentioned that they can trap spren in gemstones, because this fact is highlighted in Oathbringer, but I didn't realize it was here. The idea was presented here in Words of Radiance first.
Yeah.
Okay, so you already talked about how the group that carved
The
off
last legion.
was the last legion. I don't know if that's really all that important. It hasn't come up, but maybe it'll come up later.
It's a convenient name for them for sure.
Yeah, the reason why they wanted to break off because all of the forms that they were doing before, they had to obey their gods. And they didn't want to have to be forced to obey anymore. So they broke off, willing themselves to become dumb.
Dull form.
Dull
with
form.
No spren in their gem hearts.
And hard to think. But they preferred that. They preferred that and freedom over continuing to be kind of used as puppets. Killing Gavilar kind of reaffirmed that decision, even though they were kind of generations apart. Gavilar was trying to bring their old gods back.
Do we know that in this book?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it was kind of at the end of the prologue. Because they were telling Yasna that like we killed him because
he was going to bring back our gods.
He was going to bring back our gods.
I forgot about.
Yes.
I was about to say like
he was doing dangerous stuff.
Yes, because we don't. Gotcha. Yeah.
Now Venli. So actually, well, let's talk about Eshonai's background first. So Eshonai and Venli are sisters. Eshonai was the willful young child who was always kind of wandering off, discovering new places, exploring. Venli stayed at home and listened to her mother and learned all of the songs.
The dutiful younger sister.
She was dutiful. There's a lot of resentment there, for sure. But Venli, the reason why I want to bring up Venli is because Venli has kind of decided for her people that she is willing to risk bringing back their gods. So she has kind of gone against this twofold decision to not bring back their gods. So Venli it's a one-woman show kind of going against that grain.
I would argue, but I think
it's not like she consulted with anybody else. There may be others that would agree with her actions, but it's not like she talked that through with anybody on the whole.
Yeah.
There are also kind of some comments in this book about the Spren again betray us. Just to kind of explain that a little bit is that
okay, go on ahead.
I won't go into the whole thing. Spren used to bond the listeners, or at least the species that the listeners are. But then they didn't. They kind of stopped bonding them. So yeah, there's some hurt feelings about Spren and bonding. There's more to say. There's more to say, but later.
I want to make a pun, and I can't. My pun is a spoiler. But I appreciate hurt feelings.
Yes. Okay. Eshonai is kind of one that got the whole thing started with King Gavilar. She was the one who was kind of exploring way out, kind of.
That's in the Rhythm of War prologue, right? That's not in.
No, it's mentioned. Not in full detail, but it's mentioned in this book. So she's out exploring kind of away from her home, kind of days out walking, making her own maps, and she comes across King Gavilar. And King Gavilar is like,
in the Unclaimed Hills.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's a lone Parshendi who can talk and think and all that stuff.
Well, he didn't call her a Parshendi. He called her a Parsh woman.
A Parsh woman, yes. So he's just like, well, what is going on here? So Eshonai kind of was the first contact. So there's a history there. She was also present the night of King Gavilar's death. She was in the palace with even though she was young at the time. She's the one who actually tell the rest of the listeners that, hey, something's going on here. Maybe we need to kill Gavilar. Anyways, we also see her kind of more recently. We see her. She is the shard bearer that fights Dalinar and Kaladin.
The last
at the end.
Shard bearer.
Yes. All of the listeners are living in what the Alethi know of as Stormseat, a epic kingdom, an epic kingdom. But the listeners call it Narok, which in their language means exile, because they don't necessarily want to be living there. It's just the safest place for them to live while the Alethi are going after it. But kind of getting into the meat of the book, we are seeing kind of both Dalinar's side and Eshonai's side, and both of them want this war to stop.
At first.
Simple, right? The two of them just meet. They agree to stop the war. We're good, right?
No. That's never how that works.
No. Yeah.
Because it's not like it's not like the war started for no reason.
Yes.
Right. And so like that, but that underlying grievance need to be addressed.
There's such hope in the beginning of this book that the two of them will meet and things will get resolved or get better or something. But then Venli comes into the scene and messes things up.
I mean, I think that assigns too much blame on Venli, but okay. She certainly had an outsized role.
So Venli is ambitious.
I kind of want to save my discussion about that until we've got the Rhythm of War perspective on it, though.
Okay. I will say that there's not a whole lot of trust between Eshonai and Venli as they are adults.
Isn't that how all sibling relationships are? Sorry,
from personal experience. Probably
this isn't.
Yes, but
this isn't.
I'm
This
not
isn't
sure
my therapy
everybody.
sessions. This isn't therapy.
No. So
bros, if you're listening, this wasn't about you.
okay. I thought you said Rose. I don't like
Bros.
Bros.
My brosifs.
Anyways, Venli kind of is supposed to be researching like how to get art form or any other form, and instead
What
she
is it? Mediation form?
Whatever.
Envy form?
Yeah.
No, that's a different. There's a.
She was supposed to be. Eshonai would have been happy with
Negotiation
any
form.
but
form.
Venli very specifically told her, chose not to tell her that she was trying to figure out how to get
Form.
storm form.
Forms of power,
which are more likely to have
the red
their gods control them with forms of power.
Because that's not ominous.
Yes, so it is quite noticeable that after Eshonai transforms into storm form, that she's quite different. She is not the Eshonai that everybody knows.
Well, and that's sort of foreshadowed in the book, right? Where every form has an influence on the mind of the person who's wielding it, right? And that's why, the mate forms are so distractible.
Yes, but there's kind of a slight change. They describe it more of as kind of like a slight change in personality rather than a complete change of personality. I think mate form's a little bit more intense, but the other forms are not quite as a change. Like I don't think there was a whole lot of personality difference for Eshonai between work form and war form.
I want to go on a very long conversation about what is this thought experiment saying about the persistence of identity, and like how the hormones and just the chemicals going, how your brain chemistry affects who your personality is.
Is there going to be a Ship of Theseus reference?
Yeah, eventually, yeah, but like one part of a much longer thing. But we just don't have time. I got to go pick up the kids from daycare soon. And this isn't the right time for that anyway.
Once we get through all of the books, we can go back.
But if you want more of a Ship of Theseus and, how does your brain chemistry affect who you are as a person, another book that has...
I'm sure your therapist, if you
Mickey 7 is very... Mickey 7 is pretty good for that. Anyway.
Anyways, Eshonai is very not much herself. We even get kind of glimpses, to feel the impression that we get as readers is that this is a completely different person, and there are the real Eshonai that we kind of know is kind of inside of that Eshonai screaming,
right, to the rhythm of peace.
Like there's trapped in syndrome or something like that.
Locked in.
Locked in syndrome or something.
I viewed it differently than that, but not much differently. Yeah.
A couple.
I almost viewed it like sort of a parallel to the split personalities that Shallan experiences there.
That doesn't really happen until later, but
she adopts the Venli persona here, or not Venli, the Veil persona here.
Yeah, but the split personality thing, that will get deeper in the next book. A couple choice kind of excerpts from that I picked out. The ancients are guiding her. She's focused and knows what to do. So that's kind of an indicator to us that someone else is kind of controlling her, feeding her kind of directions, instructions, demands.
Yeah, and I mean,
we also catch her in a number of lies.
Yeah,
I won't go into all of them, but particularly about things surrounding Colin and the Stormfather, we catch her in quite a few lies.
Like how he. When she talks to the five, no, Colin didn't want to negotiate when really she was going to sink the stuff. And then also the whole rounding up the people who weren't going to conform on the plateau. Like, okay, that, she's ruthless.
Yes, it was quite stark to me when, Venli just comes up and says, we'll have to kill them, and it's a very kind of stark conversation that just yep, I know we're going to have to kill them and stuff like that. Which is a totally different tone than previous.
The Eshonai we see in the first few interludes is thoughtful
and caring and wants to care for her people and wouldn't be horrified to think such a thought.
To me, it's less like it was an entirely different person, but more like she was under the influence of a drug of some kind, right? Where she was being manipulated. And so, like, because we see when she realizes that her mother is in the nonconformists, she has like a shock of realization there, right? So it's not like she's a puppet being, with totally locked in. It's
Not
more
totally
like,
locked in,
yeah.
but there's definitely control being asserted on her, and she can
Yeah.
break
She's
free
being
in some way. And I like to think that the kind of the real Esh and I was able to kind of maneuver the thoughts in order to get, Thule in charge of those people.
I don't think it's all the real Eshonai. It's all her.
Okay, if you say so. There was another excerpt was she could almost hear voices speaking to her, advising her. So definitely kind of real thing. Yeah, super ruthless. Eshonai just bypasses the fives and takes over the camp. But yeah, I will say
Iraq is a mess, and I just need to rule it.
Okay, Neil Patrick Harris. I will say that remember that this small group of listeners got away. You'll have to remember it in your head for a long, long time. I will tell you that. But do remember that. I think we should call it there.
Yeah, let's take a pause for the cause. Thank you.
And we're back.
Yeah, wearing different clothes. Probably about a week or two of longer hair or something.
But
yeah.
We'll cut to it and we'll do some more commentary at the end. So we're going to talk about Yim?
Im?
Im?
Yum? Yum yum?
I don't know. I forget how they pronounce it in the audiobook.
I think it's Im.
Im?
Yim.
Yim? It's spelled Y-M.
Yeah, the YM guy.
The shoe guy.
The shoe guy. The
cobbler.
cobbler.
Okay. This is my favorite interlude, I think.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Huh. Just in this book or overall? Because I think there's one in the next book that I like more, but...
I'm going to say for this book.
Fair enough.
Right now.
Fair enough.
So anyway, Im, whatever. He's a cobbler with a troubled past. Apparently he had grown up quite wealthy, squandered his youth, got into some trouble, made some bad decisions. Anyways, he's a cobbler now in his old age.
Yes. And, I mean, he's Iriali, right?
You're getting ahead.
What do you mean I'm getting ahead? This is his interlude. But this is where we hear a lot about, like, the details of their religion, about, like, how they're the one experiencing itself. And that's how he explains to the urchin why he's so kindly to the
and the urchin is also supposed to be Iriali as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
So things that mark an Iriali: golden hair, light yellow eyes, typically. And I'm like, do they not mingle with other races? Why are their appearance so undiluted? Or are we assuming that this golden hair is a dominant trait? Maybe
a little bit of column A, a little column B. Yeah, I mean, like, it's the same way like how the Alethi all have straight black hair, and that's the.
I guess I'm just so used to like light colored hair being a recessive feature in our world, but
right, and
invested characteristics might act a little different.
Yeah, it's all different when there's magic involved. And I mean, like,
as if this is a real thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I oh boy, because they're in a, they're not in a globalized society, right? Like, globalization's not a thing, right? So it's not like mixed ethnicities is different, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's I didn't bat an eye at that, right? Where they've got distinct ethnic traits.
All right. Anyways, yes, Iriali are going to keep showing up. Keep an eye out because you'll hear the Iriali mentioned in other Cosmere novels as well. So the religion, a couple more details that we got was that that everyone was once God, or another term that we have for God is Adonalsium. So everybody was once Adonalsium.
Well, they don't call it Adonalsium, they call it the One.
The One, yes. But the One never experienced anything because One was everything. So break the One up into several different entities. Those different entities can then experience different things. Or in another way of putting it, splinter. The God was splintered.
Or shattered.
To experience things.
Yeah, I mean, I like that theory that, because I guess I forget what spoiler warnings we put at the top of this episode, but I mean, in the greater Cosmere sense, like we learn a lot about, we learn a lot through like little tidbits of there once was a father god Adonalsium, and it, it's dead. But we don't know why.
Yeah.
Or why or how it came to be, right?
As we're listeners are casual readers, we're just gonna put it all out. So in a way that makes sense, in a way that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, but like that's yeah. Oh my god. I lost what I was trying to say. I don't even know.
So another thing that we learned about this religion is they call it the Long Trail. So the idea is that this group of people, this race of people, the Ariali, travel from planet or land, from planet to experience different things. So what is foretold about this kind of journey, this adventure, is that there are 7 lands that these people will travel to. And that Roshar, which is the planet that this book is focusing on, is the 4th land.
Do you think we'll ever see the previous 3?
Oh yeah, for sure. Brandon does not do all of the stories in order, so I'm sure he's gonna flip back.
Well, because like we never saw whatever. Like there's stuff from the background of like I don't know whatever.
But anyways, the point of this long journey, I'll read you the quote. Eventually all will be gathered back in when the 7th land is attained, and we will once again become one. Capital O.
Or if you like 90s, early 2000s anime, Big O.
Okay.
I'm sure there's 2 people out there who are chuckling. It's not that good of a joke, so not more than a chuckle, but still.
Yeah, so lands that we know of that they have visited, whether or not the order or the number of land that it is, we don't quite know. But we know Roshar, because that's the planet that we're on now. We know that Tress of the Emerald Sea, or the planet is called Lumar, is another. We have a possibility of Scadrial, but we're not quite sure about that. So there was a lot that we learned there. Now, if we back up, I want to take a step back and other things that we learned. So the whole point of this kind of interlude is that this old cobbler is actually bonding a spren. So I want to point out a couple things. One, Radiance, people who are kind of bonding these friends, can be young or old. There's not really age discrimination happening.
Yeah, just because all of our main characters are adolescents doesn't mean that's particularly
right.
But yeah, that's just a narrative choice, right?
And it's not just people who are running kingdoms. It's people. It's lowly, not lowly, but your average everyday person as well.
It's anybody who's got those cracks in their spirit that but also
Trauma.
wants to be a better person, right?
Yeah.
And in particular, like the ways that they want to be better align with the Spren's ideals.
Yeah. The other thing that this interlude, and as well as the other that we're going to talk about, is that this constable figure is specifically after budding Radiance. Now, he also seems to have a fetish with the law, because he does come up with these, he does get the legal official documentation to execute somebody or to bring them in, and if they fight then he can kill them, whatever. But what he says is that he's, going after people who, he's seeking justice. But we're supposed to read between the lines and see that he's specifically going after people for justice that are bonding spren. And he has some supernatural way to figure out who's bonding spren. So it's kind of, he's a scary character, but he's even more scarier the more you realize, every time you read this book, it's like, oh, shoot, he's the monster in the closet.
Do we get his name in this book? I know we have it in the next one. At the end. At the very end, okay.
Let's save that for a little
Yeah, let's
later.
save that when we get to that interlude. But, he's darkness. Yeah.
But we did get to see one of the radiant powers. Yim does heal the boy. Now
Regrowth.
Okay,
Yes.
the point that you want to make about this, we'll save that for the end.
Fair. Yeah,
because
that's sort of a spoiler. It's foreshadowing for the next book, and so talking about it would get into spoilers.
Yes, but I do have that written down. So we will
Good.
talk about
Someone's got notes, because like I said, I'm just like, what? It's been like months since I read the book at this point.
All right, so let's get down and talk about Risen. So Risen, I hope you remember, was a character that we saw in the interludes of the previous book, A Way of Kings. In that book, she was a petulant, ignorant child, though she had a brain. I don't think we were supposed to think particularly well of her. And to be honest, rereading this chapter, I don't know if we're still supposed to think particularly well of her yet.
No, I mean she's young and ambitious
And ignorant.
I she's got that ignorance of youth, right?
Yeah.
Where it's, she hasn't, I mean, part of that, like, I just relate to, right? Where, like, she's got a trusted mentor who's telling her to do these things, and she just takes what he says at face value, right?
Yes.
And
she likes to take the world on her shoulders.
Yes, she's very ambitious. Like I said, it's like, I don't, I don't think, I don't not think well of her.
Yeah, I don't. In this reading, I'm not quite happy. It's not quite enjoyable because I am annoyed at her the entire time I'm reading this.
She's got a lot more courage than intelligence.
Yes, but being more specific, we've got lion turtles.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's what it is, right? It's a lion turtle.
It's not a. I mean, they're great shells, and they are. I mean, turtles.
It's a turtle. It's a big, gigantic turtle with people living on its back.
See,
with a forest on top and all of that stuff. What is that if not the lion turtle?
Well, less lion and more crab. Everything on Roshar is crabs.
Anyways, I prefer to think of it as a lion turtle.
Yes, definitely Avatar Last Airbender vibes.
The good Avatar. So, yeah. I do have in my notes, I have lion turtles, great shells, floating islands, whatever.
Yeah.
How have people not hunted them?
What do you mean?
Like, they're great shells. Their gem hearts have to be freaking huge.
Yeah. But they have people on, like, they're the gods of their Eshi Isles.
Oh, there have been bigger things to ward people off from hunting. They just, I don't know. I don't know how they're still alive.
I don't think that it clearly has some sort of influence on the world around it, even besides just moving itself around, which...
Meaning?
I mean, when Risen falls... It's, the God,
it has some kind of magic powers that it stops.
Yeah,
that cushions her fall.
Yeah,
or something.
Cushions her fall. Like, that's the only reason she survived. Now, she was not unharmed, but like,
could have been a lot worse. Should have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I thought that was. I remember the first time I read this book, and we still didn't know. There's still so much that we didn't know about, like, how Radiance formed at this point in the book, right? And you heard those stories from Teft about how, people who survived when they should have died, and, the Spren coming and catching people as they fall, right? And it was, to me, I was like, I didn't, the first time I read this book, I thought this was because I thought it was Risen was going to be a Knights Radiant, right? I thought she had done something to bond a Spren. Now that's not the case, but, like, there's a parallelism there.
Okay. On a side note, if they do have really, really large gem hearts, saying this in a veiled way, we do know later that there are really, really large gem hearts. I'm wondering if that's where they come from.
Well, because there's other great shells as well, especially ocean-bound ones, right? Mm-hmm. That haven't been hunted to extinction.
Well, we just don't know where those large gem hearts come from. I'm wondering if this is one of the sources, like maybe when one of these things dies.
Could be, or I've got a few other ideas, but...
Save it for later?
Yeah, save it for later.
Okay, going through the events of this.
We're going to talk about Blueskin Guy?
In a minute. We'll end with that. I'm just going to outline all the ways that Risen is dumb. We do see her, there is like an empathetic part where we see her deeply concerned about her Babsk, and she's taking on a trade deal on her own. She has no idea what the terms are. She just has to prove herself. So that's what she sets out to do, to prove herself. She messes up a lot with the king versus queen. It trips her up quite a bit, which I don't know. Her trade seems to not care about gender, so I don't know why she would. Anyways,
well, it's because her language does, right? I mean, do we need to go back and read some Anne Leckie? Like, it trips you up when you're calling somebody a king, and it's like, all right, but she comes from a language.
But
that's
a good
gendered,
trade master needs to.
She's not a good trade master yet. She's an apprentice tradesperson.
Yeah, she's not really learning her lesson.
Well, she's in the process of learning her lessons.
Yeah, she's messing
Good
up.
judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from piss poor judgment. She's on the path.
Well, anyways, the other thing was there was like she meets the king and the translator, and there's basically no hello. There's no nice to meet you. It goes straight into the trade talk. And it's like, really?
Well, but that's I mean, that's a cultural thing, right? There's, like, here on Earth, there are some cultures where, like, it's rude to like just you're coming into a business discussion. Why are you fucking changing the subject? Right? That's irrelevant. Like that's there's. I work in supply chain.
Fine. Well, I won't dock that for her then. I'll try to remember that next time I reread it. She then tells the king that their decision was pointless.
She's basically complaining at the unfairness of it all, right?
Yes, I don't think that's the best argument that she could have made. She insults their intelligence and lack of culture, which our esteemed translator berates her for, and then she continues to do it. But there is the redeeming thought that she has that, Vistim only treats with those he respects, which is the point of the lesson.
Well, maybe
not the point of the lesson, but like something that like it feels like that should have occurred to her before.
Well, like I said, I definitely got Kobayashi Maru vibes. Now, if you're not a Star Trek fan, there's a test that all the Starfleet officers have to take.
Oh, and that's okay. Well, I watched the recent-ish movies.
Okay, but
that was in there.
Yeah, but it was okay. It's different. I mean, like it is.
Does he not cheat?
He does cheat. Oh, yes, he does. Right, but
I was gonna say that seems to be a major character.
Yeah,
building moment.
That's part of his character. That's who Kirk is, right? But yeah, so like it's officers are supposed to sometimes you got to take a loss, right? And it's how you treat defeat, right?
Yeah, she didn't do it well.
She didn't. She didn't take no for an answer.
Nope. She's bold though.
She's Captain Kirk.
So she appealed to the lion turtle. I know it's not called lion turtle. Whatever. She appealed to the great shell. Ended up falling. The lion turtle does
save her life.
Cushion her fall a little bit. She did get set up. To act stupidly because Vistim was not sick.
Yeah. Well, he was sick, but like not.
And whole thing was supposed to be kind of a training exercise.
Yeah.
And they put way too much pressure on her, and so she went to extremes when really the stakes were not real.
Well, but she got a pet.
And I'm gonna say Larkin. Because it's useful for you to know the name. So it's a pet Larkin. Larkin are typically of the land Aemia. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a minute. Apparently, the lion turtle can command a Larkin, which I think is interesting.
Yes, I want to know a lot more about that.
And we don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out in the next arc. Okay, now we can talk about the blue guy. Okay, do you want to talk about a little bit about Aemia? Because I don't think there's a whole lot of spoilers, and it's just easier to talk about if we just give some background.
There's two different kinds of Aemians.
So, hold on. Aemian is a land.
Yeah, Aemia is a land. It used to be one of the Silver Kingdoms.
And it's way off. If you're looking at a map of Roshar, it's way to the west.
Yeah.
No one really lives there.
There's an event called the Scouring of Aemia.
Where there were people living there, and then there were not. We, at this point in the story, don't really have a whole lot of details, but we do know that there were two different kinds of Aemians, however you want to pronounce it.
And the blue skin guy is one is.
So there are kind of humanoid Aemians that have blue skin. So that we met one of those on the lion turtle on the way up the mountain before the trade deal.
And it's the same one we saw in the first book, who was naked and trying to catalog different kinds of spread.
And his name is Axes the Collector.
That's right. I'm like, oh shit, it's been too long since I read it.
Yes. They are thought to be cursed. There are very few of them.
But they are functionally immortal. And that's not the same thing as actually immortal, but
functionally. So Larkin are animals. So we're not going to talk about the second kind of people from Aemia. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Larkin are an animal from Aemia that are also virtually extinct. The lucky duck, Risen, now has one. She was gifted it, which is very strange.
Bad luck is a kind of luck. Oh, sorry. But
okay.
Yes, good luck. Good luck. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
Okay, we'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. So those who don't want to have foreshadowing spoilers, you're still good to listen for a little bit. Xyle.
This interlude's only like 2 pages long, right? And yet.
This is a connection to Warbreaker.
Yeah.
At this point, we know that he has enough breath or investiture to sense when people...
Maybe we can give like a few minutes, like, hey, if you haven't read Warbreaker or are sensitive to spoilers, even if it's just things like how the magic system works, maybe like skip ahead a minute or two.
Or listen, because this will make no sense, and then we can tune back in. So we do know that he has enough breath or investiture to sense when people are nearby. Now that, I believe that talent is not, you don't need a whole lot of investiture for that sense, but we do know that he has it. We do, so...
I'm going to Google the heightenings table from Warbreaker real quick.
So wait, what is it? What does he go by in Warbreaker? Vasher. So this is, Zyle is Vasher.
Yes.
And it's really funny that he is a sword master because it was kind of a point in Warbreaker that he's not actually a very good swords person.
Well, considering, it's all relative, right? Because, in there, they're like, yeah, he was a terrible duelist, but like that's only compared to the other people who've been around for thousands of years. So,
but to an immortal, he's a good duelist.
Yes.
Or not duelist, but swords master.
Yes. 50 breaths is aura recognition. 200 breaths is perfect pitch. And 2,000 breaths is agelessness. That's the 5th heightening.
So presumably he has that much.
Presumably he still has enough for agelessness, although that might be tricky. He might not have that. He might just be ageless because of who he is.
Right. Okay, we'll talk about that in another episode.
Or you can just check out our Warbreaker episodes.
I do appreciate Zyle, even though it's only 2 pages. He's very crotchety, but in a very lovable way. So it is nice to kind of connect with him. It still upsets me that the references to colored filled in the idioms are here in these stories, but they weren't in Warbreaker.
Right, but I mean, like, that's like, they're not literally speaking English, right? Or Spanish, or whatever language you're reading it in. Like, they're speaking Alethi, right? And part of the conceit of when Brando's writing these books is like, yeah, it's just it's like there's, the conceit of it is like, okay, they're not literally saying the same things that you're reading on the page. It's just whatever.
Still
so like, right? But then like, so then him having idioms that don't fit is like a signal that it's like, okay, yes, he's saying words in Alethi, but idioms from a different language.
He never said idioms in...
Right, but like there were like there. If you go and look at Warbreaker, like there are idioms. Like we didn't pay attention to them because it's just a natural.
There were
part
no
of speaking.
color. Yeah, but there were no color. Anyways.
Yeah, but like that's because it's like in the conceit of the book is like the narrator or whatever just translates it for you, right?
Let's talk about Talm. So Talm has several names, but we're just going to say Talm. He is one of the heralds. He is typically referred to in this book as the madman. So we get like 1 or 2 pages of him thinking that he is being tortured because he's been tortured
for thousands of years.
He talks of teaching bronze. So let's remember that the desolations came more quickly at the end of the series of desolations so that humanity did not have time to progress and technology actually went backwards rather than forwards.
Because society was so devastated, right?
Yeah.
Just like think about how, oh God, I don't want to think about this actually. Think about how during the pandemic, right? There was a little bit of time where like we had to figure out how to do our lives, right? And adjust to the new reality of staying at home, right? But imagine that, except instead of just like, being able to just, okay, we're going to stay at home and, go out as minimally as much as we can. Oh.
I would think a power outage would be a better analogy.
Yeah. I don't know, man. But it's just like, yeah, except instead of that, it's, okay, yeah, and also everyone's going to die. Yeah, like half. Yeah,
it's very haunting that we do get this, the one time that he says, Talon says this, he says, I think I am late this time. It's very ominous, which is kind of funny thing for him to say because he's actually, he's not late, but it's been a long time since the last time there was a desolation. So
in one sense, yeah, he's the last herald to appear.
I guess he's late in that the desolate, because normally in the previous desolations there is normally
how the desolations work, isn't that sort of
there's normally time to train people.
Yes.
There's normally time to train people in bronze or fighting or whatnot before there's anything to fight.
Yes.
And this time he thinks that he's late, and I guess he is late.
On multiple levels.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that at the end. Okay. Lift.
All right. I like Lift's interlude.
I know you do.
I know. It's very polarizing.
Like
I do. I like she's
period.
awesome.
She is awesome.
and I like it.
Well, I do want to say that this interlude is included in the short story called Edge Dancer. So if you read one before the other and you feel like you've read this before, you have. That tripped me up first time I did this.
But it's just the first chapter of Edge Dancer, right? So
Yeah.
if you go right from Words of Radiance into Edge Dancer, which is probably the best order to read it in, you can skip that first chapter or read it again if you want to brush up on it, because it's kind of in the middle of this book and there's like another 500 pages or something after it, so you might want to brush up. Whatever.
By the way, Lyft is spelled the normal way, Lift.
Not like the rideshare service.
Correct. All the names are messed up. I just thought it was worth mentioning that Lyft is spelled
Is the only one that's spelled intuitively. All right, yeah, okay, fair.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Lyft is unique. Like even her spren comments in this chapter, it's like, wait, why are you able to touch me? And who, because you can't really touch most spren.
This is the first example that we have of a spren in their radiant, maybe not having the best of friendships.
They're
because everything that we have seen to this point has been a spren and a human kind of
being more or less on the same page,
liking each other and bonding because they.
Well, I don't know. Kaladin and Syl have their spat.
Yeah, but on the whole, they like each other.
That's more, and that's more like him backsliding on his, progress.
The nature of the relationship is not what Lyft and Wendell have.
And there's your why, by the way.
So Wendell did not pick Lyft, and that is quite evident.
Yes.
But before we get to Wendell,
and he talks about cultivation, right?
Yes, as mother. But just wait. I want to talk about Lyft first. So some background on Lyft. She is Reshi, but she was raised in Ral Elorum. So I had to look this up because it was like, what is Ral Elorum? And why does everybody seem like scared of Ral Elorum? So let me tell you. Ral Elorum is a populous city in the mountainous region of Erie. So there's a big...
How do you know that? Where did that come from?
I looked it up on Coppermind.
Okay,
This is why we're having a podcast, so I can just tell you and you don't have to wonder.
I'm doing some learning too.
Yes. So there's there's a mountain, there's a big cliff that hangs over and covers the city. So the city is in shadow most of the day. That's why it's called the city of shadows. Is because it's in shadow because of this mountain.
That doesn't seem very safe.
But it is. But it's a populous city.
Storms.
It's a populous city. So yeah. And Raleigh Lorem also has has an oath gate. Interesting tidbit. The girl likes to eat.
Well,
and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think even barring what we're going to talk about with her powers, I think she just likes to eat anyways.
Yeah, I mean she's literally starving. Wendell comments on it.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a moment. Anything that she can't count on her fingers is unlucky.
That's true.
I do love the fact that was a recurring joke.
Yeah,
a lot of ages are unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, is she wrong? Wasn't everything simpler when you can count your age on your hands and your fingers?
Yes, also frustrating too, though.
Yes.
She seems to be under the impression that she doesn't age, like she was promised that.
She's been 10 for 3 years now. Or 4 years, I don't remember the joke.
So it's a good fact to keep in the back of your mind as you continue to read Stormlight. She is a very wily young girl, but she does care. Someone has to care. Direct quote from her. And that is part of her upbringing in Erie. So I'm kind of wondering if she follows the One. So the religion that we just talked about with the cobbler, or at least absorb some of its morals.
I was about to say, it's like she doesn't seem particularly,
So I read these interludes back to back.
Oh, right.
So there was kind of a lot of similarities in the philosophy between the cobbler and Lyft. So
and they're both hunted by darkness.
And they're both hunted by darkness. So Darkness is Lyft's name for the constable, and apparently
Storm and Shardblade.
And he's following her across the entirety of Roshar, aka the planet. So quite determined, and apparently has plenty of resources.
He's got a Storm and Shardblade.
Okay, all right, let's talk about Wendell. So Wendell is a vine spren.
No, he's a cultivation spren.
Oh, well, he grows vines.
Yes.
Okay.
He takes the shapes of vines.
Yes. The Ring Council of...
Cultivation
Are you sure it's not vine spren?
I am sure it's cultivation spren.
But wouldn't that be a variety of different spren? So
No.
vine sprint is more specific. Okay, whatever.
Nope.
I have vine sprint in my notes. I don't know why. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna fact check you. I'm pretty sure it's the ring council of. Well, maybe it didn't say that in the text. Okay. Well, anyways, there was a council spren that chose Lift for her. Their reasoning was because of her connection to the old magic, and they thought that because she is young, that she will be moldable. I don't know if you noticed reading this interlude, but moldable is not the first word that pops into your head.
Well, and have you met a teenager, Wendell? Probably not earnestly because of events, but still.
We're going to learn more about the old magic in the next book, so my heart's breaking, but we're going to not talk about the old magic.
Okay, but can we talk
But
about
as a teaser, there's a connection between old magic and cultivation.
Well, kind of. Anyway, whatever. There's definitely a connection between Lift and cultivation. And also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but like Lift can turn food into Stormlight, right? And that surprises
Everybody.
Yeah, even Darkness, who is some kind of eldritch monstrosity, right? He is surprised, right?
Yep. And the fact that she can interact with Wendell, I think you mentioned this earlier. So Wendell does try to explain things, bless him, because it helps us as readers.
He's an in-universe reason for lore dumps.
Yes. So he's trying to explain that Wendell is in the cognitive realm. So just quick reminder, there are kind of three levels. So we have the physical realm, the cognitive realm, and the spiritual realm. So Wendell is mostly in the cognitive realm, a little bit in the physical realm. Really only Lift can see Wendell. And it's very weird or odd to Wendell, the fact that Lift can interact with Wendell's body, because she shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and so like as an edge dancer, we see her make things really slick, right? She has the surges of abrasion and regrowth. Abrasion lets her manipulate friction, right? She can make things really slick. She can also make them really
rough.
Rough. Right, it's not quite the same as adhesion, where she can stick things together, but like it's something like that, right? But that's not adhesion. Isn't what she uses to climb the bronze domes. It's Wendell and his body as he's forming, right?
Yeah, so she almost has extra powers.
Almost, she definitely does.
And then the other ability is healing, which we see at the end of this.
It's not healing because it's like progression. It grows.
It's regrowth.
Yeah. So like she can use it to heal, but she also uses it to turn the seeds into vines to open the window really quick.
I think of it as healing, but perhaps you're right. I should stop thinking about it in that way. Regrowth is a better descriptor. But yes, so most other people get their stormlight by kind of breathing in the stormlight from spheres.
And that's why, but she doesn't.
She doesn't do it. She doesn't consume stormlight in that way.
Yeah.
She actually produces it, but she has to have enough food, which is why she's so skinny, because she just uses up all of her body's energy to make stormlight. And then
awesome.
Yes.
But it's noteworthy that Darkness is confused that she is suddenly invested when she eats that loaf of bread. She's really confused about why they're taking the chandeliers away because they're like, why are the police folks stealing all the gems? Nope, they're lowering them back down. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, because they're trying to keep Stormlight out of her presence.
Yeah, they're trying to keep her from
and she's confused about that because she doesn't know. Yeah. And I don't think she can.
Well, I agree with you. And I'm not going to explain any further.
Okay. Yes, we do know that she has visited the old magic, and Lift does say "awesome," and is her way of saying that she's using Stormlight. She doesn't have the vocab that we have, so
yeah,
she says go.
She doesn't
goes
say
awesome.
She says awesome. I like the way Kate Redding does Lift voice.
I was going to say if you're reading it and not listening to it, I feel like it's a little bit of a different experience.
Do we want to? I mean, we can cut this out if the answer is no. Do we want to point out that Darkness has a Larkin?
I was going to talk about that at the end, but
okay.
I suppose since we already talked about Larkins, yeah, we can talk about it now. So we see a Larkin. So the constable brought out a Larkin, and the Larkin was able to kind of suck all the investiture, the stormlight out of Lift.
Right, but it's not like it's described the same way as Risen's Larkin is, except it's like bound up, basically.
It's sad. Animal cruelty. I feel like he should be arrested for breaking animal cruelty laws.
I want to make a
so
joke.
we now know that Risen has an animal that can suck up Stormlight.
Yeah, connecting those two dots.
Yes. I guess I have it in my notes here that so Wendell keeps talking about Mother. Mother is not the Night Watcher. Mother is cultivation. So cultivation's is a shard, and cultivation's vessel was courting the vessel of the shard Honor, who died.
Yeah, just like how Honor and Odium are shards, so is cultivation.
But we'll talk about that more in the next book. Quick notes about Wendell. He does grow vines and then they decay. Some people can see the dust after they decay, but they definitely cannot see the spren. Wendell is a gardener of crystals and a know-it-all scholar.
And he makes beautiful chairs.
Apparently, and here's another little tidbit. Wendell grows crystals from the mines of the physical realm.
Huh. I wonder if we'll find out what that means later.
I don't know, but it's kind of weird to think about it. But Spren do use the Cosmere language of investiture, so it's nice when everybody's speaking the same language. The Spren are speaking the language that we're used to as readers. Conveniently, almost on purpose. So let me go over some quick points. She's stealing from the Bronze Palace. She's going in with a group of other thieves. She doesn't normally go in with another group, but she's watching out for a good friend so she's kind of like doing a favor to watch out for these people. But what she's really, her other kind of purpose in there is to steal delicious food. Because she likes food. And specifically, she likes good food and stealing good food.
Yeah. She wants to eat their dinner.
Yes. So the Bronze Palace is kind of ruled over by a figure called the Prime. The Prime is a public figure, much like Louis XIV. Historical background here. Louis XIV, you could actually, similar to what Gox was telling Lift, is that you could go in and just watch the king sleep and wake up and dress and do whatever. Like every aspect of his life was public.
Is Brando Sando a Francophile?
Louis XIV is just very weird.
Well, so's the Prime.
So might as well just put that in.
The Prime Yaka 6 or whatever it is.
Aka 6. Okay.
Aka 6.
Prime Aka 6 is like a longer title, probably not the full title, but we are kind of looking in on a council trying to pick a new Prime. No one is volunteering because the last 6 people that were selected as Prime.
6? I thought it was just 2.
I don't know. There were a lot of people.
Because Zeth is in the meantime, while all this is going on, Zeth is going and killing heads of state at Teravangian's behest, and including the last. And
apparently he makes a lot of visits. But anyway, so pretty much getting nominated as Prime is pretty much a death sentence. So everybody is doing everything that they can not to be the leader of this country, which is just really funny.
Well, and they're Aegis, right?
Yeah.
Same nationality as Sigil in Bridge 4, and they
follow rules to the letter. Everything.
Well, and they're nerds. They're scholars. And I appreciate following rules to a T. I work in quality, but they're definitely bureaucratic nonsense, right? Lots of red tape. It's sort of, they take it to an extreme, right? Mm-hmm. But like, and that's why they're talking about like how their applications. You should see my application is so much worse, and that's because they're all trying not to be Prime. Yeah. Because they don't want to die. And then, by the end of this interlude... Well,
she takes Lift. We get a lot of interaction between Lift and a character called Gox, who is a young man, older boy, I don't know, child man.
He's a young thief. Man-child? I'm like, man-child I feel like usually describes someone older. Anyway, whatever.
Anyways. But he impresses Lift, which I think we are supposed to get the impression is not normally done. He does predict, as she predicted, he does get caught. But Lift then gets caught by darkness. She gets away, but does come back to save Gox because someone has to care.
Well, and I think it's worth noting, like Gox, yes, he was caught, but the reason he died, right, was the constable, one of Darkness's underlings, tried to use him as a hostage to get Lift back. And
then when Lift didn't do what the underling wanted, he actually followed through on his threat and killed the kid.
Yeah. And like Darkness did not approve.
Oh, because he broke the law. They did not have any paperwork sanctioning the death of that kid.
Yeah.
So he actually let go of Lift to go berate his underling.
And that's how Lift gets away, but then she comes back, and then, yeah, and that's how Gox becomes the Prime, becomes the Emperor of Azemir.
So then as Emperor of Azemir, he can then rescind.
He can pardon Lift.
He can pardon Lift so that Darkness no longer has the necessary paperwork to arrest her and execute her.
True.
And thus, Darkness leaves.
Yes.
Huzzah. And law saves the day.
Well, kind of. God,
Bureaucracy saves the day.
yeah, something like that.
I think it's awesome. If only because it doesn't happen in real life, it feels like. I will point out that the Constable Darkness makes a comment about how Edge Dancer, which is the type of radiant that Lift isn't. They were known to be like the most articulate and refined of the radiants.
Graceful.
And that is not Lift.
Oh no, she's going around sliding around on her knees like
She's like paddling on the floor. Yeah. It is.
People don't like her chapter. I don't understand.
I don't know either. Okay, we already talked about most of these notes. Yeah, we hadn't seen his minions or underlings before. He was kind of alone in all the other chapters, so this is the first time we see minions. Not minions, but whatever.
Should I draw a parallel to where we've seen Darkness in a different chapter? Not just Ym?
No.
Okay.
At least not right now. We do find out that he is quote-unquote awesome too, so that he can suck in Stormlight. So he, who can suck in Stormlight, is going after other people who can suck in Stormlight, which is just kind of...
Yeah, do you think he has an honor blade? I know you know, dear, but, you know.
He does have a shard blade of some kind.
Yeah. And we know...
So he's a very mysterious character with things that we just can't understand. At least we don't understand at this point in the book or in the series. Kata Sixes is another name for heralds. I would like to point out that Darkness is very confident that the heralds have had nothing to do with the events of that evening. Think on that.
Well, and that there's that stinger at the end. Yeah, Yazimir or whatever.
Praise Yazimir, herald of kings. May he lead in wisdom if he ever stops drooling. Which is the only time we see him get really cheeky.
I mean, yeah.
Like, we don't see a whole lot of personality. He's just kind of cut to the point. Like, I'm here to arrest you. You're an abomination. Whatever. I'm a robot. And it's not until this sentence where we actually see a little bit of snark personality. I always thought it was worth noting.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just like, well, I need to figure out which chapters, which interludes are which. Okay. I pulled up Coppermine to just jog my memory a little bit. Okay.
We still have Zeth and Lon and Taravangian. Okay. So, and you thought we wouldn't have enough to talk about. So Zeth, we see Zeth hanging out on the top of Urithiru, which, damn him. Everybody's trying to get to Urithiru and he's just hanging out at the top.
I mean, I don't think he's, like, hanging out is not, it's not like he's just hanging out, chillaxing, bro. But he's like...
He's having deep thoughts.
Yeah, he's having an existential crisis.
In the place that everybody's trying to get to.
Yeah, it's a sacred place. He recognizes that.
Yeah.
Of course, he does he's a stonewalker
It's
now.
like you can see my notes. Because that's the next thing that I was talking about, is that he doesn't like walking on stones unless they're holy, and Urithiru is holy, which is why he's hanging out on stones. Not that he's been walking on stones.
Well, he's truthless. He has to do as his master commands.
Which means walking on stones. Zeth has been punished for raising the alarm. So Zeth tried to tell his people about a desolation coming. And they shut him up. It's like he's the boy who cried wolf, except he didn't actually raise a false alarm. Not once. That's the story that they're trying to force on him. But if he is right, so he's kind of damned. Because either he was wrong
and he's truthless,
or he was right and he killed all those people from all of his different masters for no reason. So he is not in a very envious position.
Yes, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
By the way, Coppermine did not help with why the east side of the tower has a flat side, but both Dalinar and Zeth remark on it, so I don't understand. Zeth says it looks like that side had been sliced off by an enormous shard blade. Maybe that's what happened.
I don't believe it. But also we don't... Well, never mind. We can speculate about Urithiru later.
So just to recap, Zeth has been used by Taravangian and then other masters.
He's been killing a lot of people at Taravangian's request, changing the world. One-man army.
Okay, let's talk about Lon.
I always forget this chapter exists until I go and reread it. And I don't know, I kind of like it. I like this chapter. Lon is detestable, right?
Yes. We have a detestable narrator.
Right. But it's unfortunate because he's also kind of relatable, right? He got a cushy job and he's like, hey, don't rock the boat. Just, chillax, man.
Yes. So just to jog people's memory, this is the first time that we get to see Kholinar. So we're seeing it from the perspective of Brother Lon, who is a glutton.
An ardent.
And he is now showing around the new girl, the new Ardent who has arrived. This new Ardent has a mission. She, coming from the outside of the palace, she sees everybody as kind of fallen from grace and not holding to the precepts of the religion and being gluttons and all of this stuff.
The new Ardent's name is Pi.
So all throughout this book, Words of Radiance, we have been reading, getting all of these references, very small, about something being weird happening in Kholinar. So I would like to point out, take a moment to step back, there are a lot of Ardents in this palace, and all of them are gluttons. All of them are okay going along with this route, which is a very...
They're supposed to be caring for the spiritual needs, right?
Yes. But it's very odd that all of them would be kind of take to this new route en masse with such ardor. But anyways, we know that Pi, the new Ardent, is aghast. I would also like to point out a detail that we learned. There is the Circle of Memories, a round room with 10 lamps on the walls, one for each of the ancient epoch kingdoms. We see a very similar room in the Oath Gate at the end of the morning. So there is an Oath Gate in Kholinar, which we already kind of knew because Shallan's like, well, why, there was an Oath Gate in Kholinar, why wasn't Yasna trying to do that? And as a reminder, something's wrong. Yasna believed that there was something kind of wrong with all of the Oath Gates. Something was done to sabotage them all. But the Oath Gate in Stormseat, which is the one that they find on the Shattered Plains, was kind of destroyed or
inaccessible.
Was inaccessible at the time that all of the other Oath Gates were
at the time of the Requiem
sabotaged. So she thought that would be a working Oath Gate, whereas the others would not be.
And because she was right.
Which is why she was trying to go to Shattered Plains when she had one close at hand. Taravangian. So at the end of Words of...
I have a bone to pick with this chapter.
Okay.
You say your piece.
So, if you will remember, at the end of Words of Radiance, we learned that Taravangian was the secret master of Szeth.
That's the end of Way of Kings.
Way of Kings, that's what I meant. At the end of Way of Kings, we learned that Taravangian is the secret master of Szeth. He is purposely going to try to kill all of the other monarchs and leaders so that he can rule the world. We learn in the interludes, we learn more of his quote-unquote condition and his kind of reasoning for why he's trying to take over the world. We learn that he visited the Night Watcher, or the Old Magic. He got a curse and a boon. Gavilar, on the night that he died, told Taravangian that the world needed to be unified.
Well, hold on. Do we know that?
Yes.
In this book? Okay.
Taravangian reflects on it.
Gotcha.
So Taravangian got very freaked out, especially after Gavilar died, so he went to the Night Watcher, or the Old Magic, and he asked for, very specifically, the capacity to stop what was coming. The capacity to save humankind. To be honest, that doesn't seem very well thought out. The wording there, you always got to be careful with the wishes that you ask of genies and all that stuff.
Well,
and it doesn't seem like the wording doesn't seem quite as well thought out and specific as I would have expected.
Well, I mean, it's not like, it's not like the Night Watcher's a djinn or a fairy or something, right? Because...
It's not trying to trick,
Yeah, I mean, like we've seen explored in other interludes and other chapters, and frankly, in the Way of Kings, like, she gives you a boon. It's not necessarily a boon you ask for. It's what she thinks you deserve, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's like, it almost doesn't matter how you phrase it, because it's not a monkey's paw. It's just gonna whatever.
But anyway, so his boon and curse were to be genius on some days, inversely, his genius and compassion to be inversely related. So some days he's very smart and has very little compassion, and other days he has a lot of compassion and very little genius. Taravangian seems to think that the genius is the boon and that the compassion is the curse.
Right. And so, like, in this chapter, we see the explanation of that, and like how that, and like how, you know, some days he's much more smart, and like, you know, and some days he's just a little bit smart, right? But they also talk about this one singular day of brilliance that he had, where he created what's called the diagram, right? And we see a lot more of the diagram explored in the second half of this book, right? Especially in like the epigraphs. But one thing that bugs me about that, and why I think he doesn't understand his boon and his curse, is that when he is, you know, on most days when he's a genius, he can't understand other people, right? He has great intellect, but low emotional, like he has no empathy,
No
right?
emotional intelligence. Yeah.
Right? But, you know, conversely, with the diagram, he was able to just predict all this stuff, right, about how people would react, right? So he, on that one singularly brilliant day, he did have emotional intelligence too, right?
I suppose, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a plot hole. I don't.
Okay.
But the reason why I don't is explored in the next book.
Okay, so we'll save that thought for later.
Yeah, but like I said, that's something that bugs me about their explanation, right?
Because you need to have emotional intelligence to predict other people's actions.
Yeah, and like, because he talks about like how everybody should have to take an IQ test, and like, you know, everybody who's dumb is going to get executed, and it's like, well, hold on, that's not.
Or at least, was it executed or just not allowed to breed?
Yes, it doesn't matter, right? But either way, that's like so beyond the pale, right? And that's not his least emotionally intelligent day, right? Because that was, you know, because that wasn't his day of singular brilliance, right? I do like how on the flip side, so that bugged me about this chapter. What I did like was they invented a normal distribution.
They described, yes, he did his best to describe in words a normal distribution.
Now, I don't think, well, part of me wonders if a normal distribution is the right...
Oh, good Lord,
right
no.
distribution, because I mean, honestly, I would kind of expect a log normal, because you can't have negative intelligence, right? Like, there is a point where you are just
moving on. Let's talk about
infinitely smart, but you can't be infinitely
his
dumb.
Day to day. He gets, it's not dumbness, it's compassion.
No, but he has both. Anyway,
I'm telling you this plot hole. His day to day.
It should have been a log normal distribution or something else that only has positive, whatever.
He gets tested every morning. If he's in either of the extremes, he's not really allowed to interact. Apparently, every freaking man knows the woman's script.
No.
Gavilar, Amaram, Taravangian. We just keep getting these examples of men who know the women's script.
We don't know at this point that Gavilar knew the women's script, so spoiler, I guess. Amaram didn't know the women's script. He used the Storm Warden's, and he used glyphs in a way that imitated writing, but was like kind of pushing
they're
the limits.
all writing.
They're all writing. They are not Goodvoran men. Oh wait, are you showing your safe hand? Oh no. Oh, sorry.
I am not. So he wakes up, gets a test. If he can interact, he interacts and becomes his public face. He does kind of keep track of his genius, and he keeps up the diagram up to date as things kind of change, or the best that he can. He on his orders, they kill people on purpose to get what they call the death rattles, which is an unmade. So
yeah,
you don't really need to know what an unmade is. Just know that
they're vaguely prophetic words that happen when people are dying.
And that's really all you need to know.
Yeah, we've seen them on screen since the first book.
And they're purposely killing people to get more of these death rattles because that's the best way that they have found to keep the diagram up to date as time passes.
Right. And so just to back it up a second, the diagram is the notes that
the plan
Taravangian made, right? The great plan that Taravangian made on his one singular day of complete brilliance to how he was going to save humanity, right? And so it's basically what they're trying to follow, right? That says, hey, you've got to become the sole reigning monarch of all of Roshar, and it's what led him to Zeth as the assassin in white, right?
Mm-hmm. In this interlude, they kind of, as well, along with the knowledge dump, we also get to see Zeth unraveling and becoming kind of uncontrollable as he realizes that everyone's kind of lying to him. Because Taravangian knows that a desolation is coming. So, but he's just going to use Zeth to kill people and not kind of...
Well, it's for the greater good. The greater good.
Yes. We also see kind of King Valum know that Taravangian is coming for him and that he is not the nice old man that everybody else perceives him to be. And he just decides to say, you know what? To hell with it. I'm just gonna go with it. He gives the kingdom to Taravangian and makes his bastard son stab him to death.
Which I really want to see more of the bastard son.
I think we will, because if that is not trauma-inducing radiant material, I don't know what is.
So what do you think would be what order do you think you do? Because like he was the king's assassin also, wasn't he?
I don't know. It might be Skybreaker, because I mean he was going around doing justice. Because Redden was the one who showed up at the Devar house.
Yeah.
Asking for if anybody knows anything about, Shallan's mom being killed, like, I want to hear it.
Yeah. Part of me also wonders if just his existence as a character is an allusion to the Robin Hobbs books, the Assassin's Apprentice, the I'm blanking on it, Live Ships trilogy. No,
I don't know. I didn't read it.
Yeah, whatever. Also about a bastard who is a royal assassin. Very good series. Never got into it, but
Taravangian is trying to kill Dalinar because the risk of competition is too great. So apparently Taravangian is concerned that Dalinar is just going to take over the whole world.
I mean, he is the Blackthorn.
He's trying to take a step back from, his nephew, let his nephew rule, but to be honest, it's not going well.
And that's why Dalinar is leading an expedition onto the Shattered Plains. And Elokar is sitting back home getting drunk.
Okay.
Boom.
All right. We are now going to get into a spoiler section. So if you don't...
There's no other interludes for us to go over? Do we want to go over like the epilogue?
No, all of the interludes were Eshonai. So I stuck all of the Eshonai interludes together.
Fair enough. Okay, yeah.
But sometimes there were multiple Eshonai interludes within the same section of interludes, so...
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. If you don't want spoilers, now's your time to leave.
And also, thanks for listening so far, yada, yada, yada.
Okay. So going back to talk about Eshonai, this is the first time we meet Venli. We know that Venli is an important character later on, so it's kind of interesting to kind of reread this and pay attention more to Venli and how kind of cutthroat she is, and that's without the influence of Voidspread.
She's under the influence of Voidspread when we see her here.
Not in the same way that others.
But like that's part of it, is like, yes, she was initially driven by curiosity and, and jealousy, right? But like by the point that we see her here, she has a Voidspread in her gemstone.
Yeah.
Gemheart, whatever. Yeah. It's being covert. It didn't give her a form of power, but yeah.
A tiny detail that I had not noticed until this read, there's a couple mentions of a comet-like spren that is bothering Eshonai. So that's the spren that eventually bonds with Venli.
Timber.
I had noticed that
or is
detail.
It timbre? Whatever. It's
Timbre.
Yeah, but like it's the musical term.
But anyways,
the distinctive quality or characteristic of a sound. Timbre.
But what we're supposed to kind of get from that is that Eshonai was in the process of bonding a spren. She just hadn't really known it. So this spren was kind of crossing over into the physical realm, and then Eshonai
beefed it.
Died. So now there's this poor spren that's in the physical realm just kind of hanging out.
Mindless.
That spren, so the comet-like spren is a light spren, which when you bond a light spren, you become a will shaper. I did not provide myself notes about what will shapers can do.
We see Venli use her will shaper powers in Rhythm of War. They can, similar to Stone Wards, like she does a lot of... No, I think it's cohesion.
Okay, cohesion. Okay.
Right. So like she shapes a lot of stone, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing she can do, forget what the other one she can do is. Oh yeah, let's Google it real quick.
Transportation.
Oh, and
so she can go in and out of the cognitive realm.
Yes, but just like how Shallan can go in and out of the cognitive realm, she can't do it as effectively as Jasnah can as an Else Caller.
Yeah. Okay. As you alluded to, Venli is kind of listening to this spren that we can't see.
Yeah.
What's his name?
We'll get to him.
I think he's asked further out. But so if it seems like she's talking, there was one point in particular where it seems like she's listening and talking to a spren that we can't see, and that's because that's what's happening.
She's not a radiant yet.
So here's what I'm talking about with she doesn't have the same influence as some of the others, because Eshonai notices that some of the listeners that get converted to the storm form, they are walking in storm form like they're familiar with the form. That's because it's the ancients taking over the bodies, that the people the people that were actually in the bodies have been consumed.
Really?
Yes.
Like they were being taken over by like the fused?
Yeah.
No, because then they'd be fused. I thought it was more implying that.
What else would it imply if they were familiar with the form?
I thought it was something that was like it was something instinctive to them.
No, I don't think so.
Like I thought she was basically like in her mind it was like this is right. This is something this is our right to have.
No, because she said only some of them looked like they were familiar with the form.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. That's what I'm going to say in my headcanon.
Fair enough.
So what we were talking about is that the listener gods are the souls of those of ancient.
Well, kind of. Their god is odium, right?
Right.
But yes, they also have a special reverence for their ancestors who, yes.
Okay, I think that's it for Ash and I. Now we can get to Yim, and now you can give me your point that you had about the spread.
Well, we don't see very much of the spren that
Yim
Yim has. Yeah, but like it looks like a twinkle of light, right? And that is
what is described. That description is a mist spren.
Yes, and it's
mist spren when you bond a mist spren, the radiant that you become is called a truth watcher.
Right, and that's also the same type of spren that Renarin bonds. But Renarin bonds a corrupted spren, and it doesn't look the same as a normal mistspren. And there was a narrative choice Brando made, like to have not very many descriptions of Gliss in Oathbringer, but also like.
So if you weren't
yeah.
In other words, if you weren't paying attention like me,
yeah,
you did not pick up on the fact that Renarin spren looks different from this spren that we see in this interlude. So it was a surprise reveal for me that he had a corrupted spren, but
there was something wrong.
But there was something wrong there. Yeah. But if you had been paying attention in this interlude, you would have noticed the difference in description between this spren and Renarin's spren.
Or just even the fact that like Yim spren is visible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it can be seen even by people. Like he asks the spren to hide so that way it's not seen, right? Because other people can, but. When we see Renarin talking to his spren, like nobody ever sees.
I thought it was because he's hiding.
Right, because he's hiding, right? But like he's got something to hide, and that's because he looks different. Anybody who saw him would know that he's different.
So a misspren is supposed to look like specks of dappled light.
Yes.
Okay, Zyle. I don't have much here because it was only 2 pages, but there's a touching moment at the end where he expects somebody to talk to him, aka Nightblood.
Yeah, he never had a spren.
The talking sword that we saw in Warbreaker.
Hello, would you like to destroy some evil?
Yes. So he still misses.
Yeah.
Okay, so Talm. I told you I didn't have much for Zyle. Okay, so Talm. So this is mind blowing to me. So I'm gonna reveal this.
Go quick.
So desolations happen when kind of someone breaks. When one of the heralds kind of gives up. So to our knowledge right now, Taln was the only herald that was back in damnation getting tortured. So the assumption is that Taln, after thousands of years, finally broke.
And I mean that kind of like we don't know what that means to break, to give in.
But
like,
Taln,
but the madman is a madman. He is like he appears broken.
Yeah, and. So the assumption is that he finally broke and the desolation was going to start again. The reason why they kind of picked Talm and didn't return with him because he had never broken before.
Yes.
Of all of them, he had never broken.
Yes.
So we have a man that was known to never break. He finally broke. So we have some conflicting information here. So the big reveal is that because this is a spoiler, Talm never broke.
Yeah, and that was a word of Brandon until it was confirmed in like the last book and Wind and Truth. I didn't like that being a word of Brandon because it took away a lot of us. That would have been a great, shocking, surprising reveal. Anyway,
I think people were putting it together even without the word of Brandon. Talm never broke. So we won't go in, I'll save it, but somebody else broke. So somebody else was in damnation. Ishar, so he has a quote in here. Ishar keeps talking about a way to keep information from being lost following desolations. And you have discovered something unexpected. We will use that. surge binders to act as guardians, knights. So this is another point to iterate that there were kind of surge binders, people who are bonding spren. Surge binders is kind of anybody who has that ability. Knights Radiant are people who kind of take oaths. So this is kind of another distinction here. So there were surge binders for a while, and then eventually they kind of formed a set of rules to live by and became Knights Radiant rather than just surge binders. Also kind of Cosmere spoiler thing is that I think he's also kind of talking about the gemstones that they kept memories in that they find in Eurothiru.
Yeah.
Okay, lift. Constable, darkness,
Nail.
the herald, nail. That's why he's so confident that the heralds had nothing to do with those events, because actually he did, because he was there. But yes.
Yeah, but not Yezrian, who then the comment about him drooling is because Yezrian is, or Yazier, or whatever you want to call him, is the drunk outside in Kolinar.
Oh.
So yeah, he's the one that Dalinar interacts. I don't think we've seen him yet.
No,
okay,
that's in the next book.
Yeah, so like he's a beggar. He's yeah.
There's a comment in there. Storms. I think it's another desolation come upon us. Yup. That was kind of in reference to the primes being killed. Not exactly the forces of a desolation, because it's
All right.
Well, names aren't coming to me. Is Gox or Lift a cognitive shadow?
No, he hadn't finished dying.
Okay. Well, neither did Zeth.
Zeth did finish dying.
Oh, okay.
That's why his soul. That's why he trails his soul behind him. Is because he wasn't. They had to reattach it quickly.
Okay. Lan. There's a description of windblades. So I'm going to read it, but I don't really know what to do with it. The most majestic formation, the most majestic formation were the wind blades, enormous curling spines of rock that cut through the city. Beautifully lined with colorful strata on the sides, they curved, curled, rose, and fell unpredictably, like fish leaping from the ocean. Supposedly, this all had to do with how the winds blew through the area. There's something there that we have not gotten to. But, I mean, a lot of that description sounds like Eurothiru. So I don't know what to do with this.
Well, because we know that the shapes...
Except keep it in mind.
We know the shapes of the capital cities of each of the 10 epic kingdoms were all based on acoustics, right? Where they put the sand on the plates and they play the tone or whatever, and it turns the cymatics or whatever turn it into a shape, right? And that matches the shapes of the different cities. I still
don't really understand all of that, but yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, I assume that the shape of the wind blades has to do with acoustics.
Yeah. I think we're going to come back to this. Okay. Teravangian. So this curse...
Yeah, you go first.
This curse boon thing, Compassion Genius, how does that work as a vessel? I'm like, does the curse continue?
No. I don't think so. But I also think that I don't think it was... I mean, it might have been Genius as well, but I also think he was glimpsing into the spiritual realm, right? And we see that when Teravangian is dealing with Odium at the very end of Oathbringer, where Odium brings up the diagram, from the copy he has of it, and like it, and Odium like spreads it out even further and says, and here's how far I can see, yada yada yada, right? And it's like, yeah, he was touching into the spiritual realm, right? I think because it wasn't just a boon and a curse from the Night Watcher, it was a gift from cultivation.
Yeah.
I do think there's an element of he was able to, he was able to use fortune, right? He got extra fortune out of it, and so it wasn't, I don't know why, but I don't think that his singular day of brilliance that he keeps pining for, I don't think it followed the same rules as everything else.
Interesting.
Because he was able to understand how people think, right?
Yeah. Teravangian does remark, turn off your emotions on a whim, and that tickled his brain. And I don't know what to do with that either, but I do think it's important.
Yeah, but I mean that's part of his character arc, right? Is integrating his emotions and his intelligence together.
Yeah. Okay, Zeth. So Zeth lives thanks to Nail. So the constable figure that we're seeing in all of this interludes, we see a much different action from him. He actually saves someone. He takes Zeth and kind of makes him undead. He very specifically makes him alive again to bring justice to the Shin. So Zeth's people. Do you want to quickly... I'll say this. Nail also gives Zeth the sword, Nightblood, or Sword Nimi. We also get confirmation that the Shin had or have the honor blades, which is maybe why they're so secretive and don't want to talk to outsiders. Okay, do you want to talk about the changed ending and then we can end?
Oh, I was going to save that for our next episode where we just go over our normal post-read episode.
Okay.
Yeah, because certainly, like, we've already lost people who dropped off because of spoilers. So.
Okay. Apologies for the late release.
I mean, yeah, we've been busy. It's a hobby for us. We've had life kept happening, and life will continue to happen.
But we'll
do our best.
We will do our best, but we do feel your pain when you expect to see an episode and it's not there. That happens. It still sucks, but we appreciate your patience.
Thank you for listening to us. We've been Cosmere Casual. Our email address is cosmerecasual@gmail.com. Cosmere Casual is our social media handle. Our intro and outro music is licensed through Tribe of Noise. The artist is Ketsa and the song is Odyssey.
And until next time, keep your wits about you.